sad and lonely. I can help.
Before we begin this video analysis, I must give major credit to the academic paper, The Mail Order Bride Phenomenon in the Cyber World, an interpretive investigation. This paper was the starting point for my research and is quoted directly throughout the video. Over 3 dozen sources were used in the making of this video, and they will all be credited at the end of this video. I hope you enjoy this analysis and learn something new about the fascinating world of mail order brides. And as always, please let me know what you think. David, a well-educated, middle-aged man, had trouble adjusting to dating after his divorce. He discovered a matchmaking service which helped pair men in the United States with foreign women. David browsed through hundreds of women in the catalog, looking for someone special. David wrote to several women and over time developed a relationship with a woman from Cambodia. After a year of communication, David visited the girl and her family in Cambodia, and soon after the two got married. Currently, the two are in a 12-year marriage, which they both describe as happy and beautiful. Anastasia was born in Kyrgyzstan. She was the child of 2 teachers. She was gorgeous, excelled in school, was musically talented, and cultured. She thought her talents and capabilities were very limited in Kyrgyzstan, so she enrolled in a dating agency at the age of 18. Soon after, Anastasia would meet Indul King. King was from Seattle, recently divorced, balding, twice Anastasia's age and weight. Anastasia's attraction to King was not physical, but she was attracted to King's professional experience. As King was receiving an MBA in finance from an Ivy League school, a former Eagle Scout, and a former college professor. King would soon visit Anastasia in Kyrgyzstan to meet her and her family in person. 3 months after meeting Indul in Kyrgyzstan, Anastasia flew to America for a visit. 1 month after that, on April 30th, 1998, they were married. Anastasia enrolled in college and was ecstatic about her future in America. However, the two's honeymoon would soon end, as King was a financial and emotional failure with a history of domestic abuse, specifically with his prior mail-order bride marriage that ended in a divorce. Over the next 2 years, King would become increasingly controlling and abusive to Anastasia, withholding her passport and threatening to get her deported if she left him. All of these events would culminate in September of 2000, when King would murder Anastasia, as King could not afford another failed marriage. These 2 stories represent 2 ends of a possible continuum of outcomes. One woman experiences abuse and a premature end to her promising life, while the other experiences a fulfilling life with a beautiful marriage. While they end in extremely different ways, they begin in the same place: the search for a foreign lover from a vastly different culture, aided by a third-party matchmaking service. This brings us to the thesis of this video. This video will attempt to answer how the mail-order bride process works, what role technology plays within the mail-order bride process, and finally, what the mail-order bride industry tells us about the human condition. In the 1980s, for-profit matchmaking services were created. Their business model was as follows. Catalogs filled with pictures and information of women in lesser developed countries looking to date foreigners were sent to men in developed countries. The men would then pick a few women from these catalogs and send them letters and pay a fee per letter. This process generally went on for years until the 2 participants felt comfortable enough to meet one another in person. No longer in its infancy, the mail-order bride industry in 2010 was valued at over
$2 billion.
The major rise of this industry is not thanks to advancements in shipping processes or mail technology advancement. Rather, it lies within the creation and worldwide adoption of the internet. Today, the majority of mail-order bride communication occurs over the internet. Typically, the women pay a low fee to be put on a website, and the men pay a fee to talk to the women. Communication occurs through direct messages and video chats. Customers and women talk to see if they are compatible, and if all goes perfectly well, the man will go to his potential bride's country before they marry. MailOrderBride.com is one of the thousands of resources which helps customers in achieving their ultimate goal of finding a mail-order bride. The website reviews and clarifies which mail-order bride services and dating sites are the most efficient and provides customers with tips for securing a mail-order bride marriage. This site also shows the surprising prevalence of the mail-order bride phenomenon. as there are over 1,600 mail-order bride-related websites. This website even boasts about its 10,000 monthly viewers. When comparing the analytics on its sister site and one of the dating sites it hosts, this number is a very low estimate. It is very clear that through these analytics, the mail-order bride industry is not inconsequential in the slightest. Now let's examine the dating sites themselves. Upon entering mail-order bride dating sites, you are flooded with a sea of women who all want to talk through letters and video chats. It soon becomes pretty clear how these websites make money. These websites operate on a pay-per-letter basis, meaning any communication with these women on these websites costs money through credits. Using the cheapest credit deal available, let's do some math. The price for communication is pretty expensive, as 5 minutes of instant messaging or the price to send 2 letters costs $4, while cam sharing and video calls cost $2.40 a minute. Despite the high levels of fraud and costs associated with these services, in 2017, there was an estimated 1,500 mail-order bride marriages in the United States alone. Comparing the 16,500 mail-order bride marriages to the total number of marriages in the United States during 2007, we see that 15 out of every 2,000 marriages were mail-order bride marriages. This percentage is slightly higher than the marriage rate in the United States during 2007. These statistics show the prevalency of the mail-order bride industry, and they leave us with one simple question. Were all of these marriages a result of these sketchy pay-per-letter websites?
And the answer is
partially.
Is your world crumbling apart? Do you fear you will never find that one lucky woman? And more importantly, are you tired of being scammed by mail-order bride sites?
Fear not, we can help. The Lonely Files Marriage Agency will try its best to accommodate you with the mail-order bride marriage. An international marriage agency is a for-profit business which introduces women from lesser developed countries to you. Sound familiar? Our executive plan includes $7,000 of communication credits, a personal assistant who will find 8 to 15 marriage candidates, and that's not all. We will provide you with an in-person meeting and events between you and these women, all for the low price of $15,000. The Lonely Files Marriage Agency operates a pay-per-ladder basis for client-customer communication. We will not provide transportation expenses for customers, nor can we guarantee a mail-order bride marriage. Call now, 1-800-SAD-BRIDES. Again, that is 1-800-SAD-BRIDES. Call now, we can help.
If you didn't guess yet, marriage agencies and international marriage brokers are the alternative route for obtaining a mail-order bride marriage. The aforementioned executive plan is a real service provided by a real marriage agency. Now let's take a look at some of the promotional clips of an event from one of these marriage brokers. Did you notice any trends? For one, the men are a lot older than the women. And for two, the women are very gorgeous, especially when compared to the men. And this makes sense, as the average male customer is 37, highly educated, and divorced. These men are successful within their careers and fall into the socio-economic background of upper middle class. Meanwhile, the average mail-order bride is 26, from a lesser developed country such as Russia, Thailand, or Brazil, and these women are moderately educated and as a group have a moderate percentage of divorce. The age difference in these relationships is not a result of different cultural norms. An 11-year age difference within a marriage is 6 times higher than the average age difference of marriages in America, and nearly 4 times higher when compared to Russian and Thailand marriage averages. With all of this information in mind, it brings us to a major criticism of the mail-order bride industry, which is the thought that this industry is predatory as it is capitalizing off of the global wealth inequality by essentially letting wealthy older men buy a marriage with a much younger and very attractive woman from a far less privileged background. Marriage agencies address these criticisms by dismissing them. Instead, they advocate that they are legitimate businesses providing an international matchmaking service. These agencies argue that the term mail-order bride is problematic and carries untrue negative conceptions, which affect their businesses negatively. While it may be true that the term mail-order bride is a misnomer, as the mail-order bride process is much more complicated than clicking order now on a foreign woman's profile, the notion that these agencies are completely innocent, legitimate businesses is a lie. These agencies operate within an industry that is full of scams, they are not transparent about their operations, and their business model is highly questionable ethically. A highlight of the problematic nature of agencies lies within the abuse rates in mail-order bride marriages. Abuse rates are 4 times higher for mail-order bride marriages in America compared to traditional marriages, and much of this abuse goes unreported. 89% of marriage agencies will work with a customer who has previous domestic abuse charges. This statistic highlights the ethical character of these agencies. Despite the high prevalency of abuse, scams, and the aforementioned horror stories, the number of marriage agencies and the number of mail-order bride marriages in America has increased exponentially. This forces us to ask why. To be clear, the women who enroll in these services are normal women whose wants and needs from a relationship line up with the general population. When analyzing the environments these women live in, we can start to understand why these women enroll in these agencies. In Russia, for example, an estimated 14,000 women die every year as a result of domestic violence. 36% of Russian men suffer from alcoholism. Women face enormous social pressure to marry young, and women earn half of what men do. The list of oppressive and problematic environmental factors goes on and on for these women in these countries. Taking these factors into account, it becomes easy to emphasize with why they would make an enormous risk to leave their country through a marriage. Aside from environmental motivations, research shows a common theme within individuals who use these services. A majority of the men and women have failed to find love through traditional ways. They have failed to find a lover in their country who meets their standards, be it professionally or physically, and they uniformly identify with the notion that they are deeply dissatisfied with their current image of themselves. To head back to our thesis, the mail-order bride industry is a very complex and multifaceted industry. It is not as simple as clicking the order now on a woman's profile. Instead, this industry is mediated through third parties which profit heavily from the desires of their clients. Technology has allowed for this industry to blossom, which in turn has resulted in much more scams and shady business practices. Successful marriages and fulfilling lives can be the result of these services. On the other hand, the high prevalency of abuse, stress, and cultural oppression associated with these marriages often results in these men and women's pursuit of their dreams to soon become their nightmare. It should come as no surprise that the mail-order bride industry is flourishing in a world that is full of massive economic differences, oppression, loneliness, and personal disdain. Loneliness, the pursuit of more, and a deep dissatisfaction with oneself can push us to find answers in ways that are problematic and potentially catastrophic.
Thanks for watching.
I keep wasting my time with mail order brides. I keep wasting my time with mail